Pinocchio. Many years ago, in a small town in Italy, a poor and kind woodcarver named Geppetto lived alone. He was a lonely man, and his greatest wish was to have a son so that laughter could fill his small wooden house. One day, he found a strange piece of wood that seemed almost alive. When he began carving it, the wood made sounds as if it could breathe. Surprised but hopeful, Geppetto decided to make a puppet out of it. With trembling yet loving hands, he carved the head, arms, and legs. When he finished, the puppet suddenly opened its eyes and began to move. Geppetto cried out with joy, "I will call you Pinocchio." From the very first moment, Pinocchio was lively and mischievous. He ran, laughed, and played tricks, but like a newborn child, he knew nothing about the difference between right and wrong. Geppetto decided to send him to school so he could learn and have a better future. To buy a school book, Geppetto even sold his old but precious coat. With the book under his arm, Pinocchio set off for school. However, on the way, he heard music and the noise of a puppet show. His curiosity overcame him. He sold his book and bought a ticket to the show instead. At the theater, the other puppets were amazed to see him because he was a living puppet. The owner of the puppet show, who seemed strict and frightening at first, became angry. But when he learned that Geppetto had sold his coat to buy the school book, his heart softened. He gave Pinocchio a few gold coins to take home to his father. Happy and excited, Pinocchio started back. But on the road, he met a cunning fox and cat. They pretended to be his friends and told him that if he planted his gold coins in a magical field, a tree full of gold would grow. Innocent and trusting, Pinocchio believed them. The two tricksters stole his coins and left him alone and confused. At his lowest moment, a kind fairy with blue hair came to help him. She asked what had happened to the coins. Afraid of being scolded, Pinocchio lied. At once, his nose began to grow longer. The more he lied, the longer it became, until he himself was frightened. The fairy said, "A lie makes the face of truth ugly." Ashamed and sorry, Pinocchio admitted his mistake and promised to tell the truth. His nose returned to normal, and the fairy warned him that if he wished to become a real boy one day, he must be brave, honest, and responsible. Yet Pinocchio was still inexperienced and easily tempted. Soon he met a lazy boy who invited him to a land where there was no school and children did nothing but play. At first, it seemed like a dream come true, but slowly the children's ears grew long and their voices changed. They were turning into donkeys. Pinocchio also began to change. Terrified, he realized the result of laziness and irresponsibility. With great effort, he escaped and ran far away, filled with fear and regret. Meanwhile, Geppetto had gone to sea to search for his son and was swallowed by a giant whale. When Pinocchio learned that his father had disappeared, his heart filled with worry. Without hesitation, he threw himself into the sea to find him. He too was swallowed by the same whale. Inside the dark belly of the creature, he found Geppetto. Tears filled his eyes at the sight of his father. Together, they made a plan to escape. Pinocchio lit a small fire to make the whale sneeze. With a mighty sneeze, the whale expelled them both into the sea. Pinocchio carried the weak and exhausted Geppetto on his back and struggled until they safely reached the shore. At that moment, no one could call him a foolish puppet anymore. He had become brave and selfless. After that, Pinocchio worked hard to take care of his father. He no longer lied and had learned from his mistakes. One night, exhausted from his day's labor, he fell asleep. The next morning, he woke up feeling different. His body was no longer made of wood. His hands were warm and alive, and his heart was beating. The kind fairy
What a
had kept her
beautiful day.
promise. Pinocchio had become a
Look at
real
that
boy
sun.
because he had proven that he could be kind, honest, and responsible. Geppetto wept with joy and embraced his
Pinocchio, my
son.
dear
Their
boy.
small home was finally filled with
you
laughter,
always.
the very laughter Geppetto had dreamed of for so many years. And Pinocchio understood that being real is not only about having a human body, but about having a heart that has learned to choose what is right.